I just had a feeling that I wanted to make certain works. I love the fact that we're surrounded by water, and in a way the origins of the world, that we all come from the sea, that life comes from the sea. And then as you go into the rooms, you go into, people, and then you go further in, you go into culture, and then you come out here and you finish with the beginning again. The show is about that, and so we chose some older works and newer works to make these themes come out. Well, I think that actually, if you look at all the artists who came up in this generation of so-called YBA in Britain, it's really, if there's something that connects it, it's bringing real life into art. It's not necessarily about sensation, but when you bring real life into art, then real life is difficult. It makes you feel something. It makes you kind of sometimes be repulsed, sometimes be attracted. And that's the world we live in. And before, it seemed to me that art was too much about art and was about decoration and a hermetically sealed system that needed to be smashed up and the real world needed to come in. You get the sculpture of Catman, for instance, which is, you might call a low culture image, but then it's made with pietra dura, which is a kind of Renaissance technique. So it's mixing everything up and creating things that are both at the same time. If you Google an image, you get all these images that seem to not be related on one page. And I like that way of thinking about the world, that somehow it's all synaptic connections that might be at first sight not go together, but in fact there's a connection between them. So it's all about connections and creating connections. And I think that's the positive thing of the whole virtual world we live in, is that we're like connecting things in new and interesting ways. The connection is the ideas and the themes. It's not just a visual connection. I never make things up. That's the other thing I always find in the world. So if I found it in the world, how can it be sensationalized? It exists. It's like none of the people in there, like the Buck and Alana, the two transsexual people, they're not invented, they're real. And I think that's when people understand that as well, then they often have a double take and it makes you think about the world. I mean, I'm interested in kind of thinking about the world, not fantasy.